Hello everybody. Today we are going to cover section 11.1, 11.2, or maybe 11.3. So 11.1, solving quadratic equations by completing the square. So first, let us solving quadratic equations so there is many methods. The first method is solve by factoring. So A is solve by factoring. So for example, if we have x squared equal 25, so now subtract 25 from both sides, so we get this equation. Factor this is the difference of two squared, so this is x plus 5 times x minus 5 equals 0. Then by zero factor property, x plus 5 equals 0, so x equals negative 5, or x minus 5 equals 0, so x equals 5. Square root property. So this is another method called square root method. So if we have the same equation, so x squared equals 25, so to solve the equation by this method, square root method, so first isolate the x squared. So now x squared is isolated. 2. Extract the square root of both sides of the equation. So take the square root of both sides. So when we take the square root of both sides, so don't forget plus and minus. So left hand side is x, right hand side is 5. So the solution is 5 or negative 5. Another example. Use the square root property to solve the following problem. So use this method, square root, to solve this equation. So now take the square root of both sides. So y minus 1, so divide the power by the index, so we get y minus 1 plus minus 2. So add 1 to both sides. Or this means what? So this means y minus 1 equal 2, or y minus 1 equal negative 2, because here we have plus minus. So now solve this equation, so add 1 to both sides, so we get y equal 3, or add 1, so y equal negative 1. So the solution is 3 or negative 1. Another example. Q squared plus 25 equals 0. So first isolate x q squared, so subtract 25 from both sides. So we get q squared equal negative 25. Now take the square root of both sides. So left hand side is equal to q, right hand side is. So this one is not real number because we have negative inside the square root. So this radical we can rewrite it like 25 times negative 1. So square root of 25 is 5. Square root of negative 1 is I. So the solution here is q equal 5i or q equal negative 5i. Another method to solve quadratic equation is by completing the square. So this is another method, C, by completing the square. So for example, if we have 6x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. So this is a quadratic equation. Solve this equation by completing the square. So first, how to complete the square? First, make sure the coefficient of x squared is 1. So here the coefficient is 6. So to make it 1, divide each term by 6. So divide by 6. So we get x squared minus 1 over 6 minus 1 over 6x minus 1 over 3. 0 divided by 6 is 0. 2. Move any constant to the right side. So here we have 1/3. So add 1/3 to both sides. So we get x squared minus 1 over 6x equal 1/3. Now to complete the square on left hand side, add 1/2 times the coefficient of x. The coefficient of x, which is negative 1 over 6. Quantity square. So add this quantity to both sides. So now this quantity equal what? So multiply numerators together and denominators together. This is equal to negative 1 over 12 square, or 1 over 144. So now add 1 over 144 to each side of this equation. So we get x squared minus 1 over 6x plus 1 over 144 equal 1/3 plus 1 over 144. After we add this number, left hand side becomes perfect square trinomial. So factor this by trial and error. So this is equal to, so x squared is x times x. Look at the sign for the last term. If the sign for the last term is positive, so the sign for the binomial is the same like middle, so negative, negative. 1 over 144 is 1 over 12 times 1 over 12. So now let us check. If we multiply the inner product, this is equal to negative 1 over 12x. The outer product is also negative 1 over 12x. So if we add these two, so equal negative 2 over 12x is equal to negative 1 over 6x divided by 2. So we get negative 1 over 6x, which is the middle term. Right hand side, simplify the right hand side. Simplify the right hand side. So here to add these two fractions, I need to make the same denominator. So we multiply this fraction by what? To make it the same one like this. So we multiply this by 4, then 48. So if we divide by 48, both numerator and denominator, so we get what? So 48 over 144 plus 1 over 144. So now we can add these two fractions because we have the same denominator. Now, left hand side, we can rewrite it like this: x minus 1 over 12 quantity square equal. Simplify the right hand side, equal 48 plus 1. Or x minus 1 over 12 square equal 49 over 144. So now use the square root method to find x. So take the square root of both sides, equal plus minus 49 over 144. Now left hand side equal what? Divide the power by the index. Square root of 49 is 7 over 12. So now we have x minus 1 over 12 equal positive 7 over 12, or x minus 1 over 12 equal negative 7 over 12. Simplify, so add 1 over 12 to both sides. So we get x equal 7 over 12 plus 1 over 12 is 8 over 12, which is equal to, divide by 4, equal to third. Or, similarly here, add 1 over 12 to both sides. So we get x equal negative 7 plus 1, negative 6 over 12, which is equal to negative 1/2. So the solution is negative 1/2, or x equal to third. Another method to solve quadratic equation is called the quadratic formula. So this is fourth method, which is called quadratic formula. So, to solve the quadratic equation by this method, we need to write the equation in this form, in the standard form, is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So this is a quadratic equation. This is the standard form or the general form. So to solve this equation by this method, so x equal minus b plus minus square root b square minus 4ac over 2a. What is a, what is b, what is c? A is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, c is the number. So for example, use the quadratic formula to solve the following problems. So solve this equation. 4x squared minus 4x minus 3 equals 0. So if we compare these two equations, so here a is 4. So a is 4. B is negative 4. And c equal negative 3. So now apply this formula here. So x equal minus b plus minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So this is equal to negative b. B here is 4. Oh, sorry, b is negative 4. Plus minus b squared or negative 4 squared minus 4 times a is 4 times c is negative 3 divided by 2 times a. A here is 4. Simplify. So x equal, so negative times negative is positive. B squared, negative 4 squared is positive 16. Negative 4 times 4, negative 16. Times negative 4, so negative times negative is positive. So 4 times 4, 16, times 3 is 48. 2 times 4 is 8. Simplify. So 16 plus 48 is 64. So x equal 4 plus minus square root of 64 is 8 over 8. Or x equal 4 plus 8 over 8, or x equal 4 minus 8 over 8. So here in this 4 plus 8 is 12 over 8, which is equal to divide by 4, 3/2, or x equal 4 minus 8 is negative 4 over 8, and this is equal to negative 1/2. So the answer is x equal 3/2 or equal negative 1/2. Now, if A and B are solutions to the quadratic equation, then x minus A and x minus b are factors. Of the equation. And the product x minus a times x minus b equals 0 will give you the equation, or the quadratic equation. So for example here, x equals 3/2 is an equation. So x minus 3/2 equals 0, so this is a factor. If x equals negative 1/2 is a solution, so x plus 1/2 is a factor. So for example, so if I have a quadratic equation, we can find the solution. Now, if we have a solution, we can find the quadratic equation. So for example, find the quadratic equation that has -4, 6. So the solution here is -4 and 6. So now, since -4 is a solution, so -4 is a solution, so x plus 4 is a factor. Of the solution. X equals 6 is a solution, so x minus 6 is also a factor. And the product x plus 4 times x minus 6 equals 0, so this is an equation. So we can factor this by use the FOIL method. So x times x is x squared, x times -6, -6x, 4 times x is 4x, then 4 times -6, -24. Simplify. So these two terms are like, so we get x squared, -6 plus 4 is -2x, minus 24 equals 0. This is the quadratic equation. So if we have a solution, we can find the equation. If we have an equation, we can find a solution. So section 11.3, solving equations by using quadratic method. So first, if the equation is in the form, so this is section 11.3. So first, if the equation is in the form ax plus b square equals c, so use the square root property to solve it. So just take the square root of both sides, then solve it. So like this, take the square root of both sides. This is equal to plus minus root c. So left hand side is ax plus b. Right hand side is then subtract b from both sides, then divide b. So subtract b, so we get ax equal minus b plus minus root c. Then divide by a, so we get x equal minus b plus minus root c over a. So if we have equation like this, we solve it by quadratic formula. Oh, sorry, by square root property. 2. Write the equation. So you can solve it by this, or we can multiply these together. So multiply this binomial by itself to get another equation, which is quadratic equation. So we can simplify this equation and rewrite it like this: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we multiply this binomial by itself, so we get another equation like this. Then we can solve this by quadratic formula or by trial and error, any method. So try to solve the equation by factoring method. If not possible, go to step 4. So step 4 is solve the equation by the quadratic formula. So let us solve an example. So if we have solve this equation, x squared minus 2x minus 5 minus 2x, this is x. So this equation, we cannot solve it by trial and error. So we will use quadratic formula to solve this equation. So in this example, if we compare this equation with ax squared plus bx plus c, so here a is the coefficient of x squared, a is 1, b is negative 2, and c equal negative 5. So x equal minus b plus minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Then simplify. So x equal negative b. b is negative 2 plus minus b squared negative 2 squared minus 4 times a is 1, c is negative 5 divided by 2 times a. A here is 1. Simplify. So negative times negative is positive. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. Negative 4 times negative 5, positive 20. Divided by 2. So x equal 2 plus minus 4 plus 20, 24 over 2. So x equal what? X equal 2 plus 24 over 2, or x equal 2 minus root 24 over 2. We can simplify this. 24, we can rewrite it like 4 times 6. And square root of 4 is 2. So factor out 2, so there is 2 in common here, 2. So we get 1 plus root 6 over 2. So 2 is cancelled with 2. Similarly here, so 2 minus, 24 is 4 times 6. 4 is perfect square. So 2 minus 2 root 6 over 2. Factor out 2. So divide out by 2. So the answer is, oh, this is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So the answer is 1 minus root 6. So the answer is 1 plus root 6 or 1 minus root 6. So from this one, x equal 1 plus root 6. From this one, 1 minus root 6. The discriminant and equations that can be written in quadratic form. So the discriminant, so here b squared minus 4ac is called the discriminant. If b squared minus 4ac is positive, then the solutions are two different real solutions. If b squared minus 4ac is 0, so we get one real solution. Double root. Like 0, 0 or 2, 2, 3, 3, double root. If b squared minus 4ac is negative, so we get two non-real complex conjugate solution. So for example, use the discriminant to determine what type of solution exists for the quadratic equation. So we have this quadratic equation. So here in this example, a equal 1, the coefficient of x squared is 1. B equal negative 3, C equal 10. So now b squared minus 4ac, the discriminant, equal b square or negative 3 square minus 4 times a is 1, c is 10. Simplify, negative 3 square is positive 9. 4 times 10 is 40. So the answer is negative 31, which is negative. So if it is negative, so the solutions are two non-real complex conjugate solutions. Two non-real complex solutions. So if we solve this equation by any method, like by quadratic formula, so we get two solutions that are non-real complex conjugated. Another method to solve quadratic equation is called U substitution. So for example, if we have this equation, x to the power 4 minus 10x squared plus 9 equals 0. So now, the degree for this equation is 4. So the degree is 4. So if the degree is 4, so if we solve it, we get 4 solutions. If the degree is 2, we get 2 solutions. If the degree is 1, so we get 1 solution. So now, we will solve this equation by this method. To solve by this method, we let u equal the variable in the middle term. This is the variable in the middle term. So if we let u equal x squared, so now, to find u squared, so take the raise both sides of this equation to a power 2. So we get u squared equal, so power to a power rule, we multiply the exponent. 2 times 2 is 4. So now rewrite this equation. So x to the power 4 is what? Is u squared minus 10. X squared is u plus 9. So now we have a quadratic equation. Factor this by Trelland error. So u squared is u times u. Look at the sign for the last term. If it is positive, so the sign for the binomial is minus negative. So if it is positive, the sign is the same like middle. If it is negative, so one positive, the other is negative. 9 is 9 times 1. Let us check. Minus 9u, minus 9u, minus 1u, negative 10u, the middle term. So now, by zero factor property, so u minus 9 equals 0, so u equal 9. Or u minus 1 equals 0, so u equal positive 1. So now use back substitution. U equal what? U is x squared. So u is x squared. So x squared equal 9. So if x squared equal 9, take the square root of both sides. So x equal plus minus 3. Similarly for this, if u equal 1, u is x squared. So x squared equal 1. So take the square root of both sides. So x equal plus minus 1. So now we have 4 solutions. So the solutions are three or negative 3, 1 or negative 1. So we have 4 solutions. Why? Because the degree of this equation is 4. The degree is 4. Applications. Solving problems that lead to a quadratic equations. Finding work time. Cindy and Mary own a landscaping company. Together, they can complete a certain garden planting in 6 hours. So if they work together, they need 6 hours. Alone, so together, they need 6 hours. Alone, Mary takes 2 hours faster than Cindy to complete the same job. Find the time in which each person will it take to plant the garden. So here we have this table. So we have Cindy, then Mary, then if they work together. So in general, for this type of problems, this is the same thing we do. So hours to complete total job. Then part of job completed in 1 hour. So here, if they alone, Mary takes 2 hours faster than Cindy to complete the same job. So if we let x equal the time that needs Cindy to complete the job, so Mary will complete the jobs, or it takes 2 hours faster than Cindy to complete the job. So if Mary is faster than Cindy, so for example, if Cindy needs 5 hours, so since Mary is faster than Cindy for 2 hours, so this means that Mary complete the job in 3 hours. So x minus 2. So if Cindy needs 5 hours, Mary needs 5 minus 2, because Mary is faster than Cindy for 2 hours. Together, they need 6 hours to complete the same job. Now the key idea here is the relationship between the time in hours it takes to complete the job and part of the job completed in 1 unit of time, or 1 hour. So for example, if Cindy needs X hours to complete the job, or the total job, So part of job completed in 1 hour is 1 over x. This is in general for any problems like this. So if Mary needs x minus 2 hours to complete total job, so part of job completed in 1 hour is 1 over x minus 2. Together, they need 6 hours. So part of job completed in 1 hour is 1 over 6. So the equation here is, so this is the general, in general for any problems like this. So the sum of these two equal this one. So now the equation is 1 over x plus 1 over x minus 2 equal 1 over 6. So now we have this equation, solve this equation to find x. So now since this equation contains the fractions, so first clear the fraction. To clear the fraction, multiply by least common denominator. So the least common denominator is 6x times x minus 2. So now multiply each term by least common denominator. So 6x times x minus 2 times 1 over x plus 6x times x minus 2 equal 6x times x minus 2 times 1 over 6. Then simplify. So here, this means over 1. So divide out by x. So we get 6 times x minus 2 plus x minus 2 is cancelled with x minus 2, so we get 6x. Here, divide out by 6, so we get x times x minus 2. So now the equation is cleared from fraction. So here use distributive property. Also here x squared minus 2x. Simplify each side, so 6x plus 6x, 12x, minus 12 equal x squared minus 2x. Now move these two terms to the other side, so subtract 12x, then add 12. Subtract 12x plus 12. So left hand side is 0, right hand side is x squared, minus 2 minus 12, negative 14, plus 12. So this equation you cannot solve it by trial and error, so we will use one of the methods to solve quadratic equation by quadratic formula, one of them, or by completing the square. So you can solve it by any method. So let us solve it by quadratic formula. So here we have this equation, x squared minus 14x plus 12 equals 0. So here a equal 1, b equal negative 14, and c equal 12. So x equal negative b plus minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Substitute, so negative, b is negative 14 plus minus b squared or negative 14 squared minus 4 times a is 1 times c is 12 divided by 2 times a is 1. So this is equal to negative times negative is positive. Negative 14 squared is 196. 4 times 12 is negative 48. 2. Subtract, so 6 or 16 minus 8 is 8. 8 minus 4 is 4, divided by 2. Then 14 plus minus. So this radical, we can write it like the product of two radicals. 4 times 37. So 14 plus minus. Square root of 4 is 2. Or x equal. You can factor out 2. So we get 7 plus minus root 37 over 2. So divide out by 2. So x equal 7. 7 plus minus root 37. So here root 37 is approximately equal to 6 point something, say 6. Root 37 is approximately equal to 6. So here x equal 7 plus 6, which is equal 13, or x equals 7 minus 6, which is equal to 1. But x equal 1, we deny or we reject the solution. Why? So x here is what? Is the time needs for Cindy to complete the job. X is the time needs Cindy to complete the job. So if x equal 1, so the time that needs Mary is x minus 2. So if x equal 1, so 1 minus 2, so we get negative number, which is impossible. So that's why we reject the solution. So here we accept this one. So the solution here is 13. So 13 is what? This is the time that needs Cindy to complete the job. So here x equal 13 is the time needs Cindy to complete the job, while Mary needs x minus 2. So 13 minus 2 equal 11 hours. This is the time needs Mary to complete the job. Another problem on the last one of this section is Sarah drove 330 miles from her hometown to Chicago. So this is the distance from her hometown to Chicago. During her return trip, she was able to increase her speed by 11 miles. If her return trip took 1 hour less time, find her original speed and her speed returning home. So here we need to find the original speed and her speed returning home. So for example, if we let, so this is the solution. if we let x equal the original speed, so during her return trip, she was able to increase her speed by 11 miles per hour. So x plus 11 equal the return trip speed. So now we have this table. So the trip to Chicago, then return trip. So here we have distance, then rate, then time. So the distance is 330 from her hometown to Chicago. The rate or the speed for this trip is x. While during the return trip, it takes 11 miles faster than going to Chicago, so x plus 11. Now we know that time equal distance over rate. Time equal distance over rate. So divide distance over rate. So this is the time needs to going to Chicago. For the return trip, the distance is 330. The rate is x plus 11. So now, if her return trip 1 hour less time, if her return trip took 1 hour less time. So the equation here is (330) over x plus 11, her return trip, equal 330 over x. If her return trip took 1 hour less time, so 300, this is the rate or the time for the return, for the going to Chicago, minus 1. So if her return trip took 1 hour less time, so this is the equation. So now solve this equation to find x. Now since this equation contains fractions, so to clear the fraction, first multiply by least common denominator. So the least common denominator is equal to what? List all different factors. So here we have two different factors, which is x and x plus 11. So this is the least common denominator. So least common denominator is x times x plus 11. So now multiply each term by this least common denominator. So multiply each term by least common denominator. So x times x plus 11 times 330 over x plus 11 equal. Similarly, multiply this term also by x times x plus 11 minus, multiply 1 times this, which is x times x plus 11. Then simplify. So here x plus 11 is cancelled with x plus 11, so we get 330x. X is cancelled with x, so we get 330 times x plus 11 minus x times x plus 11. So now the equation is cleared from fraction. So here use distributive property, also here. So 330 x equal 330x plus, multiply these two numbers together, minus x squared minus 11x. So subtract 330x from both sides. So we get 0 equal 3630 minus x squared minus 11. Rewrite this equation in the descending order. So 0 equal, we can write like negative x squared minus 11x plus 3630. So here, the coefficient of x squared is negative, try to make it positive. So divide each term by negative 1. So we get x squared plus 11x minus 3630 equals 0. So now we have this equation. Factor this by Schrödinger error. So x squared is x times x. If the sign for the last term is negative, so the sign for the binomial is one positive, the other is negative. So now find two numbers, one positive, the other is negative, whose product equal negative 300 or 3630, and whose sum is equal 11. What are the two numbers? So the two numbers are 66 and 55. If we multiply 66 times 55, so we will get this number. So now let us check. 66x minus 55x equal 11x, which is the middle term. So now, by zero factor property, x plus 66 equals 0, so x equal negative 66. Or x equal x minus 55 equals 0, so x equal 55. So x equal what? X is, we assume x as the original speed. So the speed here is negative, so we reject the solution. The speed is always positive. So this is the original speed. So mile per hour. This is the original speed. Now to find the return jerk speed, which is equal to x plus 11. So x is 55 plus 11 equals 66 mile per hour. So this is the return trip speed. Thank you for watching.